And you, Chris, are a physio. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I am, yes. Yeah, physio, chartered physio. Got a sports science background, so studied sort of the movement and the science behind sport.
Is there any story that really has not scarred you, but has really ingrained itself into you that you've gone, wow, you know, this is a lot deeper. This is a lot more serious than people realise?
Yeah, I mean, there's one, and it's probably not something that was a regular occurrence, but sort of nuances of that stays with me forever. Just come back from injury, just gone out to train. As he was walking out to training, he come running back in, and all the managers like
straight away,
hands up to me, what's going on, like what's he doing, is he right, is he not right, is he injured, is he not
straight
injured?
to you,
straight on it, straight on it. He's like, I need to go, I need to go. I was like, what's going on? So I can't say I need to go.
2 days?
Yeah, 2-3 days gone. Couldn't get hold of him, couldn't ring him, anything. I'm getting questioned, where is he? Like, I don't know. Like, I've tried to phone him, tried to contact him, it's really unlike him. It turns out he'd lost his baby.
Chris,
how you doing,
everybody?
How you doing?
Nice to meet you. How's
things?
nice
to meet you. Yeah, good. How are you?
Good. So you've travelled from where today?
Sunny Shrewsbury. Yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, but no, it's great to be here.
Nice, mate. Well, listen, first of all, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the Ether podcast. As you know, that this platform, my podcast, is for the people, i.e. yourselves, to give an honest and open and what happens in the real world sort of view on whatever you do. And you, Chris, are a physio. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I am, yes. Yeah, physio, chartered physio. Got a sports science background, so studied sort of the movement and the science behind sport initially. Found a real passion in the way the body worked and what happened when it broke down or breaks down. And then ways we can sort of reduce the risk of that happening, but also then fixing it when it inevitably does.
So you work in the football industry, so with Premiership clubs?
Have done. I've sort of quite a wide range. So worked for 15 years or so in lower leagues, Leagues 1 and 2. With Shrewsbury Town. Then moved.
Are they rubbish? Are they?
No, they're not rubbish. Just not good. No.
I'm going to be in trouble.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Like slating the podcast.
That's it. No, they're great club. Backpedaling, mate.
Yeah, no.
They're a great club. And spent, as I said, sort of 15 years. Massive part of my career there with so many fond memories. Then kind of went up the food chain a little bit into the Championship with Ipswich, and that didn't go so well.
Okay, why is that?
A lot of it to do with culture, in my opinion. I think.
Okay, so go back there. So you've worked as a physio, Division 1, 2. You work your way up. And then you. A lot of people think that football is this glamorous sort of. Is it a multi-trillion-dollar or multi-trillion-pound industry?
Yeah.
You know, and the whole world, the whole country is obsessed by it. You know, people plan their weekends over it. People ditch their families over it. They're like, right, I've worked all week. I'm now going out with the lads to the football. It's almost a cult. It's almost an obsession. So you work your way up to Ipswich, you say? Yeah,
Ipswich in the Championship, and it was a club very much in transition at the time. Sort of very much punched above their weight for a number of years, with Mick McCarthy as manager. He decided to step away. They decided to go a slightly different direction with a new manager, who came in with a lot of sort of changes afoot and wanted to sort of make different ideas and push, I guess, science and innovation forwards. And looking back in hindsight, probably wasn't the right time to do it as quickly as that it happened. There's a lot of sort of instability, I guess, around the club at the time, and didn't go so well, the culture within the club.
So talk to me about the culture within the club. What do you mean with the culture? Do you mean a mix of culture or just people not agreeing or did you obviously foreign players in there, the understanding, the language barrier? What do you mean by a mix of culture?
A whole mix. So it's sort of, you walked in on day one and you kind of put higher teams up on a pedestal to think that these teams have won big accolades in the game. They've got a massive ground, should have a big setup. So you walk in with almost preconceived ideas of how people will be, how the facilities will be. And very quickly we walked in, and in truth, I was like, oh my God, we've got a bit to do here.
And what do you mean, as in equipment-wise, as in...
Yeah, equipment, processes, infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then sort
Physios.
of... across the board.
The new sort of generation of looking after athletes. Were they quite old school in their approach still?
Very, yeah. I mean, sort of the GPS, the sports bras that the players wear that people typically see now, that is common hat now in football. Yeah. And I walked in and was like, right, where's the GPS? What units are we using? Oh, we haven't got GPS. Yeah. And that was day one, and I was like, wow, okay, can I see the gym? Yeah, walked down into this building, and the gym was a school hall, basically. Very sort of.
And what year was
kit.
this?
Oh, this was probably about 5 years ago.
Oh, so not
Oh, no,
recent.
recently. Yeah,
wow.
I mean, still relatively recently, yeah. So straight away then we're going into the ownership and saying, right, okay, we need X amount for GPS vests, we need X amount for gym kit. And this is a club that feel that they're punching above their weight, but they're a big club.
Yeah, of course.
So it's almost like we're battling against their preconceived ideas of, no, we're a big club, we're a championship club, we've won accolades at higher levels, FA Cups, and but actually they're slipping backwards and regressing. And then sort of the culture around the club was very similar to that, in the fact of the mindset was, we're Ipswich Town, we're a big club. And they are. They absolutely are a big club, but there was just almost a changing of the guard, and there needed to be sort of time that went through. Yeah. So unfortunately, the sort of players were used to a certain way of training, a certain sort of volume of training a week. We then went in and significantly lifted that, because we believed that the fitness levels were paramount to performance. And
what did that look like? What did the old school way of training, but what did the way of training look like when you got there to what it is now?
Yeah, well,
so just talk me through a regular day that how the guys train.
Yeah, so sort of twofold. I'll tell you a bit of an anecdote of what happened after, which was typical of the culture, I guess. But in terms of a typical day, depending on where you were in the week leading up to a game. So if you were playing sort of a week-wise on a Saturday, what we typically do is train on a Monday, would be relatively light for those that played the Saturday previous. But then the ones who hadn't played would train a little bit more to try and up their minutes. Yeah. Tuesday would be a really tough day with 2 sessions in the day, generally a fitness and football session in the morning, with then a conditioning weight session in the afternoon. A day off Wednesday for recovery, although players would come
day
in.
Off.
Listen,
day off.
You're resting the mind as well as the body. That's a big part of it.
No, it is,
Thursday, we'd then do another double session. So it'd be football session in the morning with some more lighter sort of weight orientated movements in the afternoon. And then going on to Friday, it would be sort of a reduced session. You'd be looking at an hour and a quarter-ish training, but a lot of that would be more on the tactics for the game upcoming. Yeah. We typically then travel wherever we're going if we're away on the Friday, ready for the game on the Saturday.
Got you.
But kind
so
of
it's full on.
Yeah, it is, and again, a lot of sort of mental drain as well, because you're getting thrown. Well, the players are getting thrown a load of information about what their direct opposition's going to do, what they likely will play, what position they'll play, formations. So not only is there a lot of physical stimulus, but a lot of mental drain that I don't think necessarily gets sort of reviewed and understood from the general public. That these lads are watching clips of their direct opponent. Sort of common passing.
They're going deep.
Yeah, really deep. And it's a science.
Yeah. Welcome to my Mind Over Muscle Festival, hosted by myself, Ant Middleton. You're in trouble. Now, once you go through these gates, there's no going back. Let's do this. With 250 acres to play with and to fill, come along, fill it up, and come play with Team Ant. My Mind Over Muscle Festival, hosted by myself, Ant Middleton, is open to all. Come along, face your fears, and unlock your true potential. This festival is open to all abilities. It will be action-packed, fear-defying, and a coming together of positive, like-minded people, encapsulated with the main ingredient, fun.
But yeah, I mean, the sort of the anecdote, I very quickly went in pre-season, and we were playing a warm-up game, if you like, on the Saturday. So we were going through the warm-up process on the Friday, and being pre-season, we're trying to get a lot of fitness into the lads.
Sure.
And we're just starting the warm-up on the Friday. The lads are sort of jogging round. And one of the players turns round and says, will we be done after this? And I'm like, no, it's pre-season. Like, we'll have another hour and a half. Yeah, we'll be like going into the game fatigued.
Just starting.
And he's like, I've got a tea time booked. I'm like, well, you're not going to be making that, mate. Like, we're training, we're working here. He's like, well, yeah, but like previously with the old manager, then I'd just do this and then I'd go and play golf. I was like, not before a day of a game. Like, you won't be able to. We've got a load of information to get into you. It's pre-season, so we're trying to up your fitness. So very quickly, it was almost night and day for the players.
Right.
In hindsight...
And how do they take that? You know, when you look at the players, they have this stigmatism behind them that they're all prima donnas, and what you've just said there sort of fits into that sort of realm, shall we say. Are they hard to fucking deal with? Are some of them wankers?
Some of them, yeah, straight. Yeah,
they come in and they treat you like shit, and they think they're in their head they're fucking Champion League fucking players,
and I guess it's kind of their upbringing. So like these players now in the system that we've got, they go in at under 7 being told they're a world beater. They're going to be the best footballer in the world. They're going to earn tens of thousands of pounds. They're going to not have to worry about work after football. So they almost get put into that mindset. So all they know is, I'm the best. Like, why would I need you? Well, actually, I'm the physio that keeps you on the pitch. So that's why you need me.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of them do. However, I've met some of my best friends and some people I speak to on a daily basis in football who are the nicest, most grounded people, even at the top of the game. There's people sort of playing in the Prem who I speak to now on a sort of daily, weekly basis who are absolutely brilliant, eternally grateful for the small piece of work that I did to help them. Driven.
Yeah, realising that it's a team, you know, there's loads of working parts here. There's the small cogs that behind there that if you took that out, then you wouldn't be on that pitch.
That's it. And I think some of absolutely. I think some of the more sensible of the guys who are making it into the top end now, they're kind of investing in themselves. So there's one in particular he's got himself a strength conditioning coach outside of football to come into his house. He's employed a full-time chef. So they see themselves as a business, I guess, in their own right, that they're investing in their business rather than just going pissing it up the wall or buying the latest Lamborghini or whatever it might be. So there is sort of...
I like a Lamborghini.
Yeah,
I do like a Lamborghini.
I wouldn't know. You wouldn't. But yeah, my thoughts are there are some brilliant people there. Brilliant in football. Some of them are, I guess, a victim of the industry.
Yeah, of the environment.
Yeah, it is. And like, again, even at the level of Ipswich, which is still relatively low level compared to the top 4 in the Prem, like I'd get to...
Yeah, but they're not too far behind.
No,
you know, Championship is like, there's that fine line of...
That's it.
You know, of breaking into the Prem.
Definitely.
Where,
and that's where the luxuries are.
That's it.
Yeah, so... And it's one of them where, like, I'd go there and we'd be flying to a game, for example, and I'd get into a training ground and they'd be like, right, have you got your passport? And I wouldn't even be out my car before my passport's getting taken off me, same as the players. And they don't want for anything, these lads. And it's kind of twofold. I understand it because they go through such an amount of mental torment through the week in terms of fighting their niggles with their body. No football player will go out onto a pitch 100% fit. Period.
Yep.
Absolutely simple. They're always carrying a knock, a mental issue, remnants of an old injury, a tiredness.
And do you think they've got that sort of physical robustness? We'll go on to mental robustness in a minute, but that physical robustness of how they were back in the day. You know, you see them not diving around. I'm not timing everyone with the same brush, but you talk about these small niggles. You know, it seems like, you know, they get a knock, they're off. You know, a lot of the players back in the day, they got a knock, they got back up. You know, their team would rally around them, and you just see more of a physical game where, you know, they took knocks, they gave knocks, and they get up and crack on with the game. But now I think they're so aware of their career and the longevity of it that, you know, it's more technical now. They don't go in for the big tackles. They're very aware, self-aware of getting injured and potentially being careerless or without a job.
Definitely.
Does that affect the game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to put my physio hat well and truly on now and kind of say, I believe that's because us as professionals have improved our game, if you like, as physios, that the information that we're giving over to players makes them more informed. So one of my key objectives of being a physio, certainly in sport, is to make the players understand a little bit more and know the consequences and know the things they can push on with a little bit and the knocks and the niggles that they can go through, but also the consequences of being reckless when they were playing back in the day and they'd try and play on with a broken leg and everything else. There's a very fine line, but without a shadow of a doubt, the players are more sort of intelligent and aware of the consequences of certain injuries and what they can go through, and they're much more body aware than what it is. That brings its own difficulties because any injury that they have, it's almost like I need a scan. Yeah, I need an MRI.
Yeah, almost that. And in your head, it's that distraction, that niggle.
That's it.
Which takes your focus off the game and onto yourself, and therefore that can affect yourself and it can affect the team. It can affect the result.
That's it, definitely. And any sort of player that I've worked with that comes across this will laugh because I always say treat the man, not the scan. Yeah. So it doesn't, if you scan something, if I sat here today and was scanned, there would be something that would be found. Doesn't mean that I'm feeling it now, doesn't mean that I couldn't do anything I wanted to, but it would find something.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden it's that mental sort of seed that's like,
in your head.
I've got that wrong. Well, you haven't been feeling that. That's nowhere near the pain point of your body. So why has that been stopping you? Well, it hasn't been stopping me, but I can see it on the scan now. And that's sort of
the mental game there. That's the mental side right there.
It's sort of understanding then to find ways of breaking down those barriers of fear, because a lot of it is driven by fear, by the lad saying, if I play on this injury, I'm not going to get another 5 years out of my career, which then has a consequence of mortgage, lifestyle, retirement, everything else. But yeah, it's one of them where you've got to try and find the balance certainly as a physio, that what can you get the player through safely? Yep. What can you get the best for the club, which is obviously it's a business, and
absolutely
there is pressure to keep players playing, especially when they're the best players.
Big business, right?
Yeah, massive. And
so
also
your responsibility really is so important because you're responsible for the environment that these players live in.
Yeah.
So the environment is super important. I talk about, being in a positive headspace, surround yourself with positive people, make sure you're in a positive environment. And you've got a huge responsibility to ensure that their environment is something that's going to affect them in a positive way, psychologically and physically. How much pressure is that on you, and how much pressure do you get from the heads of the club to perform at your optimum in order for the players to perform at their optimum?
Yeah.
You personally?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. Like the pressure, having worked in football, it is huge to set the standards. Now, I think a lot of that is driven from within.
Yeah.
So I always call the physio room the room of truth. You will always find out if the lads are pissed off with someone, if they're unhappy, if they're feeling something.
So they can come in there and they can sit there, you can work on them, and it's almost a therapy for them. It's almost not only are you treating them physically, but do you really get into their personal problems?
Massively, yeah. So I take really seriously the sort of interest in the biopsychosocial model, I guess it is. It's not just treating that body and rubbing the legs or moving the knee through range of movement. It's about getting into that player's psyche, knowing what he's not liking, knowing what he's getting agitated about, knowing what's annoying him, knowing what his fears are. Fear is a big thing, and it can be like inhibit any top performance because of that fear and the seed of doubt constantly in the background.
Is there any story that really has not scarred you, but has really ingrained itself into you that you've gone, wow, this is a lot deeper, this is a lot more serious than people realise, and this is what players have to deal with on a regular? Yeah,
I mean, there's one, and it's probably not something that was a regular occurrence, but sort of nuances of that stays with me forever and will never leave me. And kind of changed the way I worked, and really pushed me into this, making sure that we're understanding the person and making sure we're delving deeper into, rather than just the body or what's gone wrong with the body, is there something wider or bigger that's causing this stress?
Tell me, Chris, tell me.
So there was a chap who I'd worked with off and on for sort of a number of years through his contract, and he'd been injured a few times and always sort of contact injuries, unlucky really more than anything. And the one day he'd just come back from injury, just gone out to train, And as he was walking out to training, he come running back in. And obviously all the managers didn't.
So he's gone out onto the pitch.
Out onto the pitch.
Just turned around
straight back in. And all the managers like
straight away.
Yeah, hands up to me. What's going on? Like, what's he doing? Is he right? Is he not right? Is he injured? Is he not
straight
injured?
to you?
Straight on it. Yeah, straight on it. Screaming across the pitch. And that's
typical.
Sort of my responsibility. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, what's going on? So he comes flying past me in the changing room, running. He's like, I need to go. I need to go. I was like, what's going on? He's like, I can't say I need to go. And he just disappeared. Literally off the face of the earth
on the
for
pitch,
2 days.
Off the pitch, I need to go.
Car gone.
2 days.
Yeah, 2-3 days gone. Couldn't get hold of him. Couldn't ring him. Anything. By this time, the big wigs at the club are involved. I'm getting questioned. Where is he? Like, I don't know. Like I've tried to phone him, tried to contact him. It's really unlike him. It turns out he'd lost his baby. His partner at the time. Was heavily pregnant, I think right at the end of her term, and lost a baby, was stillborn.
Fucking hell. So he's gone onto the pitch, gone off. They're thinking, who do you think you are? You know, you've gone off the pitch, you know, you don't make the rules around here, mate. We tell you to stay on the pitch, you know. And so there's that side of it where people are thinking, right, he's just doing his own thing.
He's tossed it off. He's at the end of his contract. He doesn't want to be here. All of these things were said in that 2-day period. And then he phones me out the blue on sort of like the 3rd day and was like, look, this is what's happened. I don't want you to tell anyone. I'm like, oh shit. Thinking sort of club against player. The player, I'm acting in the player's best wishes really and best interests. He's asked me not to say anything. The club are saying, where is he? Have you spoken to him? I'm employed by the club.
Is there a sort of confidentiality sort of line that you can't breach?
Yeah,
or
definitely.
Whether that's official or non-official?
Yeah, and moral as well. I think from a professional point of view, there's absolutely a patient confidentiality line that I have to go down.
So what did you go down when he told you and you were put in that position? This is what people don't realise, what happens behind the scenes.
Exactly.
You're put in that position where you're being employed by the club, but you've got, you know, this person who's saying, don't say anything.
That's it. Yeah.
And you're torn between your career, basically, and then going, right, and then someone else is suffering.
And that's the thing. I'm a bit of a stubborn mule at times. Yeah. So I and luckily I got on really well with the management sort of overall. They were brilliant with me.
Yeah.
So I went in and said, look, I need you just to trust me on this one. I need you just to let me take the lead on it. There's a really valid reason why he can't be in, but you need to just trust me. And even then,
did they?
Yeah, they did. In fairness, no, they did. They were brilliant.
Yeah,
but not without questions. Not without. Oh, go on, just tell us. I won't tell anyone.
So there's that pressure.
Yeah, there's that pressure sort of coming in. But then the pressure on the lad is when the news eventually broke a week later. He phoned the manager or the assistant and kind of said what had happened, and all of a sudden the tides change.
Yeah.
But then there's when do you think he'll be back in? When do you think he'll be and oh, it's grief. How long? How can you quantify grief?
Yeah, of course.
So I said, look, like he's going to be ready when he's ready. And the chap was a lad. He wanted to be back in, and he come in within a couple of weeks. I can't remember the exact time frame, and it was like nothing had happened. But there was something there with him, and something underneath, as you could well imagine.
Do you think there's huge mental health issues, not so much problems, but issues with players being able to talk, being able to open up, you know, because I know very well the military, you know, the footballers, rugby players, you know, the banter's, you know, up there at the highest level.
Yeah.
So there's that, you know, and it is a contact sport, it's a physical sport, you know, it's a man's game, you know. It's like let's be honest. And is it hard for men within that industry, football players, to open up and talk?
Yeah.
Do you think they just cut it off emotionally and they just crack on with their work and just leave their family life or their social life or whatever it may be to one side?
Yeah, I mean, it's well travelled, I guess, and people are looking into it and trying to put a lot of time into this, being there for one another and everything else. And whilst it's improved and people are more open for sure, there's still almost that mentality of, well, I'm not showing any weakness. And it's seen as voicing your concerns, as your fears as a weakness, which is why I believe then that the room of truth, the physio room, is all important, because you get them on that bed often in a one-on-one situation, and you gently start talking and maybe start probing with your questions a little bit. And all of a sudden, before you know it, these deepest, darkest fears are flooding out, and I'm worried I'm not going to get another contract, and I've just got a new house, and I've just paid £700 a month for a car, and this, and I'm not sure I've been playing well enough. I'm not sure I'm going to get a chance to show I'm good enough. And all of these things come through, and then you kind of get down the line and say, well, why don't you go to the manager or the coach and say, what can I do better? Like, can I train more? Can I be fitter? Can I sort of be less greedy in front of goal, for example? And no, I'm not doing that. I'm not questioning. I don't want to be seen as like a teacher's pet and going and seeing what I need to do with a manager. And there's this whole sort of changing room culture. And I kind of see a lot of synergy with military and football in terms of it's a high performance environment. You individual, but you rely on your team. Without sort of your team, you're not going to go anywhere, but you're going to go somewhere on your own. There's all these sort of nuances and quandaries that you have as a footballer that you go through, which again, military life is very similar in the drive for perfection, I guess.
Yeah, we're put in a position, back in my day, and I say back in my day, I left in 2011, but in the Special Forces, to pass selection, you have to be at the physical level of a athlete plus standard. So it's like you're going beyond your athletes. It's so unique. You're carrying extreme weight over extreme distance, and there's no physio. I think they've started to introduce it now. They started to realise. I think it was the GB, the Great Britain rugby team or physios that were like, these guys need to be treated properly, because you're giving them these big tablets, ibuprofen and some painkillers, and off you go. That's their standard treatment. That was our standard treatment. I remember them big pink tablets.
Like the horse pills.
Yeah, get a couple of them down your neck and crack on. But if you look after the athlete better, because that's exactly what we are and who we are, you can get a lot more longevity out of it. But then you flip into that realm of, right, we are entitled to this. It's almost it's such a safety blanket that it can be a distraction on who you are, what your work is.
It's a task at hand, isn't it?
Task at hand, then ultimately affecting the organisation, the team, the club, whatever it may be. And I found that those old school traits sometimes are always good to bring to the forefront and to keep within sort of like the new school way that you do things. The science behind it, the technology behind it, whatever it is, to incorporate in the two. But with footballers, we see this sort of shift from teamwork to individuals, right? And what I mean by that, just putting it out there, and from what I've seen, when the players get off the coach, headphones on, might have phone in hand, they're watching, they're not interacting with the team. Boom, it goes straight onto a player, for example, that scored, that holds the team up, like your Ronaldo's, your Messi's. Everyone's trying to be that player within that organisation. Where back in the day, it was like, get on the coach, make sure you dress this shirt on, tie on, blazer on, no phones, no distractions. We talk tactics, we talk, we bond as a team on the coach. We get off, we go into that changing room together. We're there, everyone is part of that team, and everyone will conform to that. Where nowadays you just see them walking into the changing room, they're nodding at almost as if they're strangers, nodding at their players, taking their headphones off. Do you think that's a huge distraction? Do you think that's a huge change that's happened in football, where now it's no longer focused on the team, it's focused on the individual, and the individuals play up to that?
Definitely. And I think that last point is key. I think there's a level of stigma that these lads have been created, and ladies as well, that have been created, that now they have to feel they live up to. So like this one person come in with headphones on and strutting in on their phone, and because that got well received, all of a sudden everybody's doing it. People are cutting their socks off at their legs, and because somebody's done it, everyone does it. Yeah,
it's like a fashion thing now.
Yeah, it is. A lot of it is.
Fashion, social media, looking good rather than performing well. Performing, performing on social media rather than performing on the pitch. And don't get me wrong, these players have, they have a hard gig because they're exposed, the limelight's on them. But sometimes they do themselves no favours whatsoever.
Yeah.
Is there a teaching or a method that you implement within these clubs to say, right, guys, get off your phones. This isn't a time for you to be listening to your music. You need to really focus on the team. It's not about you. Is there something that you're too scared to upset people?
No, I'm not that type of personality. Yeah. I'll kind of say as I feel and what I think. So I think it's about sort of having continuity in your message and being there and being a sort of stalemate of saying, this is what I expect. No, I'd never have phones in the treatment room. Yeah. I now sort of look around clubs and there's people on their phones reading newspapers.
Sitting there.
And exactly. And that's, again, from what I've said, that's my time to try and delve in to see what's going on, what the issues are in the changing rooms.
Yeah, to enhance the person, to enhance their performance, therefore
and
to
ultimately
enhance the club.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my time with the players and to kind of see where their head was at to get the best for them and their career, but also by a byproduct to the club as well. So I'd never let phones come in. And when they did, straight away they'd turned out of the door and pushed back into a change room and said, when you want a rub, no problem, but don't bring your phone in. And I think that's from sort of setting standards and upholding those standards. The minute you kind of let a standard slip for one person or you kind of let something go by the wayside, very quickly it's a cult mentality. As we said, it's like everyone right, I'll see how much I can stretch it, see how much I can push it. So again, as a practitioner in football, you're constantly being tested. People are testing their sort of margins, how far they can push things and the boundaries they can stretch.
So behind the scenes, you've got the team there, but behind the scenes, what is your team? What is the management's team? Are you really connected with the manager, with the coaches? Is it like your team? You come together, you all talk in order to get the best out of the team or the players?
Yeah, in truth, Ant, it completely varies, and a lot of that is based on the manager's expectations. Now, I've been really lucky. The managers that I've worked with have been brilliant, and they've been really clued into this multidisciplinary, holistic approach where every person from a profession brings in their little bit of insight.
Yeah.
So the coach might say, right, what about this drill? And then the sports scientist will say, well, we need a little bit more from them. So do that drill, but do this running. And the most successful teams I've been in are the ones that work as a group within the group, if you like, the bigger group, to sort of bring all of their expertise and blend it into one. Now, you're obviously going to get times where the coaches wanted to do a certain thing for a game at the weekend, and the sports scientists, fitness coaches, physios might say, oof, you might overcook them a little bit there. And that's where the skill in negotiation comes in, where you've got to say, right, you can do that, but we might have to sacrifice that to get it in.
And are these players used, do you think the players, from not only the pressure from the manager, but from the owners of the club, do these players sometimes get treated like racehorses? They're literally put in a cycle.
Assets.
They have assets. They have to perform. They have to be, try and not be injured. If you are, do you know what? We get you fixed as soon as possible. Doesn't matter if you're 100% fit. We need you back out on that pitch. Of the players also, because the players get a lot of shit and they get they get a hard time. But I can imagine behind the scenes, because of the business, let's go above the club, let's go to the owners and, who are running a business. They're just churning out what they need to do to get the job done, which is win games, accumulate points and to get more money into the club.
Exactly that. Ultimately, it is a business.
Is that frustrating for you to know that they're going right and you're thinking this player isn't 100% right, and you want him back? Yeah, we do. We need him back. We're missing a midfield or a wing back, whatever it may be. We need him back in as soon as possible. And the pressure on you and the moral sort of responsibility to go, well, he's not really 100%, but that would do.
And
is that hard?
And it's a real fine line, and you've got to kind of put things in a balance, and that's where the stress comes, because you kind of balance in three main core values, I guess. The club's desire to get the player out because they're an asset. They're spending dead money if they're not playing because they're paying them every week, and it's a lot of money. So they're pushing to get him out. The manager wants to be playing because they want the best players playing to get the manager most success, ultimately for the managers to potentially move up the ladder.
Yes.
So that again, there's an independent
quite cutthroat.
pressure. It's
quite cutthroat. Behind the scenes, it all looks glamorous on the surface. But behind the scenes, it's very cutthroat. It's like the military. You know, you get trained, especially the special forces. You know, they spend millions on training with you, and again, you know, they want you on the battlefield. They want you on the ground. They want boots on the ground. You know, if you're not if you're injured or if you're out of the game, then you know you're not an asset to them, and you're dead money really.
Exactly.
You know, you're not only dead money, but you're like you're just a spare body sitting around.
Exactly that. And then you've got the kind of player who. The player splits into two. The player wants to be playing again for their own profit, for their own benefit, for their own career. But then they're also saying, oh, he's just trying to push me back and I don't think I'm right. So you've got to take all of those things into consideration, as well as the actual physical and mental state of the player, and make that decision. I've put players in when they've not been anywhere near 100%, but I've been confident enough that they can do enough to safely get through.
But with all these changes that go on, there's so much, you know, change of manager, change of physio, change of what happens. Like I said, that product of that environment behind the scenes, the physios, the managers, the coaches, it's changing so much all the time because they're not being given the chance to perform. That must have an effect on the players and on the structure of the club. Yeah, it's always changing. It's like, wow, I've got to be on my toes. I've got to be adaptable here. I've got to, you know, no wonder players are just sort of thinking, right, do you know what? I'm not going to concentrate too much on the club's career. I'm going to concentrate on my career. Yeah, and it's funny what happens, and again, not everyone, might I say, but as an average, if you like, when a manager changes hands at the club and a new manager comes in, you very rarely have people in the physio room in the first few weeks when a new manager comes in. Interesting.
All those little niggles and all those things that, they can't quite train, disappear, and I'm just about right to train. So again, but... Again, it's
so they want to play.
Nature.
They want to impress.
And they're willing to go through that little bit more pain to get them out on the pitch to impress a manager.
So it's interesting that you say that, because that's what you sort of see in the generation before. They would play on their niggles. They'd be passionate. They'd want to play like your Roy Keanes, your Tony Adams. You know,
go through anything, wouldn't they? A brick wall.
They'll go through a brick wall. It doesn't matter if they've got a slight niggle, and that's probably what lacks in today's.
It is there. There are some that are there.
There are,
but again, I think it comes down to sort of the education and the consequence of playing on injuries. So people are just acutely more aware of the bigger consequences. So. Again, would they go through brick walls? Not all of them. Not all of them. And a lot of it comes down to self-protection. They've got a career and they've got money to make. And it is as brutal as that at times. Yeah,
it's transitioned, I think, you know, to sort of putting a cap on it or a summary. So it's changed from sort of like a devoted passion towards a club to a business being run.
Definitely.
And I think the players see that now. Players
definitely.
are exposed to it. They see it. So therefore they treat the club differently. They treat their careers differently.
Definitely.
And it has a knock-on effect to what we call now, you know, look at the prima donnas. They're just there for the money. They're just there, you know, not really interested in playing, even though they are. But there is a tiny substrata of that is true.
Definitely. And I think it sticks with me again. One of a sort of older coach, really older generation, I guess, was speaking to the younger lads in the first team good few years ago now, and said, don't see yourself as that person, see yourself as a business, because you're more likely to make better informed decisions for you as a person if you see yourself as a business rather than being there as a person.
So that's being taught now. That's being
and there's a lot of that
educated within the player now.
Definitely, yeah. So all of a sudden, those considerations where they say, me as a person, I could probably get myself through that game. All of a sudden, it's what are the wider consequences of getting me through that game? And I think that's sometimes what comes through there is when players say like, or when people see players saying, I can't quite play, I don't feel ready. It's like, oh, fucking hell, here he goes again. And it's not that. It's just them considering their future and their career a little bit more. And
there's multiple distractions or options that are happening behind the scenes. And as football is evolving, more and more of those are coming into play now. So where before it'd be like, you know, I'm thinking about moving club, or, you know, the couple of options, but now it's just like bang, bang, career, money, investment, business, bang. It's like they're being, you know, pepper sprayed with all these options now and all these distractions. I like to call them distractions. That they don't focus 100% on the task at hand or the job at hand, which is winning football matches.
That's it.
That's
the bread and butter. Yeah,
as a team.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I can relate to that because when I was in the Special Forces, people say to me, how much you used to get paid in the Special Forces? And I was like, as a Special Forces operator, maybe 40 grand a year. And they're like, you go out behind enemy lines for 40 grand. And I'm like, I don't think about the money. When I was back there, I didn't think about the money. I was just so obsessed and so passionate about my job and about keeping the lads alive, them keeping me alive, performing as a team, because I knew that you can't do it alone. That was at the forefront of everything that I'd done. Getting up in the morning, going into work. I loved my work. I'm going to see the lads. We're going to train, bang. 6 months in Afghanistan, every single morning. Right, lads, you all prepared? Yeah, well, boom. That bond, I wouldn't think about money. I had zero distractions. I wouldn't allow that to come in because I was so passionate about my job. Do you think that passion of actually wanting to play football and wanting to be the best and wanting to be in the best sort of is eroded now because of I'm not saying that they don't want it, but it's so hard to focus on that one entity because of all the teachings nowadays of businesses, et cetera, et cetera.
Definitely. I think distractions is such a good sort of overview of it. And there's so many multiple distractions. You mentioned social media. Like I kind of fell foul, if you like, of a social media a while ago when I was at Ipswich. And a bit of a story behind it. There was a time we were going through a real tough period in results. The manager made a decision to change a lot of the seasoned pros who would play week in, week out. We were playing Leeds. So all of a sudden, the mood state within the group just plummets because these stakeholders of the team who play week in, week out, are used to playing week in, week out, all of a sudden aren't playing. So you walk into the game, the mood's really flat. The sort of older pros are kind of bringing the level down because they're unhappy. So we get to half time where I think we're drawing or maybe losing 2-1, I think it was. And the mood's really flat. And I'm thinking, if these lads are called upon by injury or tactical decisions in the first 5 minutes of the second half, they're not going to be anywhere near ready. So I end up getting a little bit of a circle together, putting the ball in the middle and playing piggy in the middle, for want of a better description. And in football, putting the ball through someone's legs, megs, it is like a big thing.
Huge, right?
Yeah. So
players go out their way just to make sure the player can get past them. Let them pass rather than get megged,
That's
right?
it. That's it.
God,
So I'm like thinking, please, someone just get, because I know a megs will just get a bit of a reaction. So I'm there like playing around the circle, goes through someone's legs. All of a sudden, true to form, the lad's like jumping up. So I'm there thinking, brilliant, I've got a little cue to get a little bit of excitement. So I'm there dancing, being a bit of a clown. Little did I know, Sky Sports camera was focused slap bang on me. We were near enough bottom of the league. And the commentators at the time were like, oh, it's just really disrespectful as to what he's done there, to the manager, to the club. And then, I didn't think of anything of it. The sort of end of the game, we walk in, we got beat 3-1, I think it was. And I like got my phone out and I'm like, wow, I've got loads of notifications here. Get out of my club, you scum.
People love me.
Straight away, notifications off, never read anything into social media again. But for me, that's a tiny, tiny scale. These lads are getting that day in.
That's a tiny exposure on there, getting that.
And their lifestyle, day in, day out, they're getting that. So then them carrying that into games and the added stress that's sort of psychologically putting on them, like no matter how hardened you are, there's almost an element of, oh God, do they actually think that? Am I actually that?
Yeah, I think that's this huge distraction as well, because, you talk about being ridiculed, really, because that's what it is on social media. People know, players know if they get a megs, if they miskick the ball, that's going to go viral.
And it's brutal as well.
Of course, it affects their game. Because I don't care how much you think you can cut it out, because I'm very good at cutting it out. It does penetrate sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when things go viral and you can't help but see them because they're being forced in front of your face. So it does affect the way people play because, like I said, I know for a fact, having spoken to kids and they'd much rather let the ball go past than get megged.
Definitely,
And it's a case of, right, God, I'm glad I didn't get megged because that might make it on social media. However, we've just let a goal in.
Yeah, well, in training, in football, meg's £2 fine. So you get fined £2 for getting megged. So it's like all these things like that. So you get a meg in front of the pitch, and that's why everyone's celebrating, because they think I've got £2 in the kitty.
Yes, I love that. Do you know what? Like, I absolutely love that.
There's like loads of these little things that come in, but then you think, well, they really stress in. And I remember at the time, like I'm, as I said, I'd like to think I'm fairly robust and can deal with things and can kind of block things out to a degree. But then that goes on. Then all of a sudden, within minutes, there's my WhatsApp groups going off with my mates, all my best mates, thinking they're being funny, thinking it's hilarious. And I remember at that time thinking, oh my God, like everyone.
You think it's hilarious. He's being ridiculed. He thinks he's been ridiculed. It's gone viral. Then it affects the team because it affects the player. It affects the behind the scenes. It has this massive knock-on effect. I don't think people realise the negative ramifications of a viral ridicule, shall we say, that goes around, not only psychologically, but that knock-on effect that it has towards the team, towards the management, towards the organisation in general, and towards the sport. We can go much bigger with this. Megs is a huge thing in football in general. Everywhere around the world. You see some of the managers. When Messi megs people, and it's almost then before you know it, it's gone viral, and again, it will affect the way that people play, and it will affect the way that people think. Players' well-being, how does it affect their well-being? Oh,
hugely. I mean, it just feels sort of savage thoughts for a lot of them. And because a lot of them are that driven in a way of, I've got to succeed, I can't be megged. Then all of a sudden it's, I can't be megged. Then they get megged. Oh, I've been megged. What am I going to do? And it's in their
head, rent-free for the rest of the game.
Absolutely, yeah. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, the player's gone past them 5 times. And
it's completely affected their way of thinking, their way of playing.
And it isn't. And then like taking that outside of football into the real world, and you can relate that people will make a mistake or they'll forget something. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I forgot that. Oh, and it's that... putting in coping mechanisms, I guess, and dealing with those pressures and strains and saying, you know what? Yeah, you've got megged, but it didn't lead to anything. He didn't go and score after it, or it didn't do this. You might be £2 lighter, but didn't lead to anything. So, like, does it really matter? Like, make sure the next time you're in a better position.
Maybe there's a way behind the scenes where Megs doesn't cost £2. Megs is just Megs. Do you know what I mean? It's like because it's... We'll give you £2 if you make a tackle. We'll give you £2. I think there can be a whole sort of change of the guard behind the scenes on the whole
Definitely.
megging.
It's funny, you mentioned earlier about the kind of financial rewards and the education that these lads have. I've spoken many a times with sort of many people about saying what should be done, in my opinion, is these younger lads coming through now. I noticed the other day a 15-year-old come on for Arsenal in the first team. And these lads who'd be earning tens of thousands of pounds should be given a basic wage, and the rest be put into a fund where they can't touch, or they're made to invest, and that then safeguards their future and sustains that. But the problem is if you then went to sign that player and said, right, I'm going to give you £500 a week, and £19,500 of that a week has to go into a bond, or they'd be like, oh, I'll just go and sign down the road at another club that'll just give me 20 grand cash. So it's hard because you're wrestling then an industry.
Do you have financial advisors embedded in the club?
Yeah, I mean, again, sort of there's been a lot of work, certainly from the FA and the PFA, who look after the players' well-being largely.
You'd think that'd be part of the management behind the scenes. You've got your manager, you've got your coach, you've got your physio. A financial advisor would be a great addition to that hierarchical structure.
Definitely. And one of the big sort of progresses I've seen over the years now is that there's been a sort of a welfare or player liaison officer who typically will source externally those people. So they'll be the ones who goes and gets the best investments.
But it's not obligated for the
club.
Not
a prerequisite
at all. It's just a choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, maybe making that part of the club's ethos, is welfare management.
Definitely.
You physical management, psychological. You're doing all of that anyway.
Yeah.
So taking that welfare management away in hand as well, or in house, could potentially stop a lot of distractions from affecting the players' performance.
Well, I was just about saying positively reinforce their performance and improve their performance.
Exactly that.
Because they feel them more content.
The less distractions, the less the less they have to deal with outside of what their job entails, i.e. getting the job done. The better they perform, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's been a few. The Leeds manager at the time made the players go out and do, I think it's 5 hours of effectively community service, but going and doing somebody's job to appreciate. And I thought it was a really good mentality.
Yeah,
but I also know what it would have been, how it would have been received in the changing rooms. It would have been, oh, fucking here we go again. But
the entitlement, the sense of entitlement, there's a fine balance there.
That's it, yeah.
Do you know
so
what
these players were made to go and see what people had to do to pay their £25 for a ticket on a Saturday. They had to go and sort of do these jobs that are classed as menial, but they were doing that really to go and fund their obsession of football, to watch these players on a Saturday who get the best meals, the best kit, the best this, the best that. And I thought it was a really novel way and a really good way of doing it. But behind that, I also know what would have been said in the changing room have been like, oh, here we go. Like, what a shit idea.
And with their money, you hear about footballers gambling, about footballers drinking excessively. Is that a huge problem within the industry, gambling and drinking? I know drinking not so much now.
Yeah, but and gambling. Yeah, gambling not so much either anymore. But it's a lot of it is dead time. And again, players don't want to sort of put themselves to be shot at. One of my really good friends, he died a while ago, unfortunately. He played football, Marv Morgan. And Marv was a larger-than-life character, been around lower leagues, so again, had to sort of do something after football. And I remember him dreaming up this idea on the bus back from a game, saying, I'm going to start my own clothing brand. And I remember at the time, the manager saying, no, you're not, concentrate on your football. And Marv, being Marv, was like, no, I'm starting my own clothing brand. He was drawing sketches on the bus's back. He was leaving training and going and sort of sitting at home, dreaming out what he's going to do. And that then born Fresh Ego Kid, the clothing brand of which Marv started. But in the early days of that, Marv was told, ridiculed, actively prevented from doing something that would take his time. Yeah. So instead, at the time, there's other players who would just go...
Because he's contracted, getting paid good money to focus on football. The job at hand.
And I could, the amount of times I heard a coach on the day say, you need to focus on football, not your clothing brand. It's scary the amount of times. And testament to Marv, not only did he go and succeed and build a really strong brand that was his passion, but he also did well at football. So it shows that there can be a blend of passions.
They can work.
And these
distractions can be positive distractions that will enhance the performance of the player, the mindset of the player, which I think is hugely important. Definitely. If they're going out, they're doing something that they feel like has a purposeful meaning, then they can bring that into their game. They can bring that into the team. They can bring that into the performance, right?
Yeah, and that was Marv's release. And instead of that, Marv would have been traipsing around town or sat on Instagram, whatever it might be. And
instead of trying to take out all the distractions, identifying and really going down what the positive distractions are and what the negative distractions are. Does it have a negative effect on the player, therefore the team, or does it have a positive effect?
Yeah.
Rather than going,
right?
one-stop shop, cutting everything out, focus on football. It's like, no, if this guy's going to bring 2-3%, more into the game from his positive mindset from what he's just done, or his positive energy from what he's just achieved outside of football, that's surely just going to enhance the game.
Exactly. And I think we go down a very fine line of almost generating clones in football, skin fades, Dre beats and all that. And the best lads I've worked with are the quirky ones. The ones who are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember, creative.
I remember, and you won't mind me saying, Tom Eves, who's still playing now, the most off-the-wall guy, non-stereotypical footballer, you or me, I loved working with him. He was articulate, he was intelligent, engaging. You'd be out and he'd whip a guitar out of nowhere and start playing. Like, he is like...
We had a couple of people like that in the military.
It's brilliant. But what that does as well for the team, because all of a sudden it's like, go on, Easy, like, do something. Yeah. And he'll be there, like, yeah, fine. Or sing a song. Or,
We had a team member like that in the special forces. We'd come back off of a mission and we'd all be in the, get into the cage, cleaning our weapons, ready to go again. And then you'd see someone come by on a unicycle, juggling, and honest to God, and it was one of our pals, and he just loved juggling, and he loved being on a unicycle, and he wanted to master it. It made him happy. He was buzzing off of it, and we'd be there, and we'd.
What's happening?
What's that man doing? And it just make us smile as well.
It allows you to decompress as well, doesn't it?
And that was this way of you could see he was buzzing from it. But it was just something completely off the cuff. But it didn't affect his performance.
That's it.
Within the arena as such, or on the battlefield. So go and cycle around camp, juggle as much as you want.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as it's having a positive effect on you, therefore having a positive effect on the team.
And that's what it does, is you as an individual, what it brings to the team. And that's any walk of life. That's office-based, that's life, friendship, whatever. It's like, don't be sort of solitary. Be as part of a group and part of a team, but also be aware of what makes you happy as a person.
I think that's a great message. Real great message for players. A real great message for teams.
Yeah, don't be afraid to be yourself. It's huge.
Yeah. Well, listen, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to get into the mindset of not only what happens behind the scenes, but what these players actually go through. They get a hard time, but ultimately, I think the message for the players would be, talk, open up more, be yourself more,
be yourself,
and recognise, I would say to them, recognise the negative distractions to the positive distractions, and, cut them out. And that's certainly what I done in the military, which made me perform at my optimum on the battlefield. Whatever was positive, that made me a positive individual, that would enhance my performance and the team's performance, I would take on board. Anything else,
yeah, it's dealing with that, isn't it? It's dealing with that negative side of it and how to deal with it.
But Chris, you've got huge positive energy here, mate. I've loved having you on board.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for coming on.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.